The spirit of Texas on Elaine.
Now, from KHOU TV in Houston, this is Channel 11 News at 5. With Felicia Jeter, Steve Smith, Dr. Neil Frank with the weather, and Kip Nielsen on sports.
And good afternoon on this rainy afternoon. Steve is off. I'm Sylvan Rodriguez. Another marathon session at City Hall.
That's right, Sylvan. The City Council has numerous budget items to tackle tonight, and the mayor's office is expected to draw more fire in light of the city's budget problems. Reporter Bill Jeffries joins us now live from City Hall. Bill?
Well, City Council is just now turning to an effort where they would try to give big pay cuts to some of the mayor's top assistants. Indeed, her very top assistant, former finance director Camille Barnett, could be cut back to $1 a year, and that would likely force Barnett to move out of the mayor's office back to her old position as the finance director. As I say, it's a move that they're just now getting to after a long day's worth of budget discussions. Perhaps a highlight today was when Councilman Ben Reyes charged that the city is once again falling behind in the spending of community development money. This has been a historic problem, and Reyes says the city of Houston is once again in danger of having the government take that money away.
Community development is running about $5 million again this year, about $5 million underspent. We're about to have another audit from HUD. And if we don't get that money spent, we're going to lose it.
Mayor Kathy Whitmire disagrees with Reyes. She says that the city is not immediately in that danger of losing the money, and she says the spending of community development money is on schedule. Now, Reyes and Whitmire have had these kinds of arguments in previous years, and usually Reyes has been correct. The city did have to give back some money a couple of years ago to the federal government, community development money that wasn't being spent. Now, not all of the talk here today is about money. Indeed, with this holiday Easter weekend coming up, big crowds are expected at city parks, especially McGregor Park, where just a couple of weekends ago there was trouble. Numerous arrests were made, a couple of unrelated shooting incidents. This weekend, to try and calm that, there will be beefed up police protection at McGregor Park, and traffic patterns will be changed, an effort to try and help relieve traffic congestion there. What they're going to do simply is make it one way through McGregor Park, much like Memorial Park, and they hope that the cruisers and the people who go down there to party and have a good time from their cars will not be blocking traffic, not heating up tempers, not causing problems. But again, Felicia, the main issue here today, money, and a meeting that could go long into the night.
Sure. All right, going back inside now, Bill, and let us know how the discussion is going.
3 Houston Patrol police officers have been fired for allegedly beating a prisoner during an arrest last fall. Jimmy Priscilla said the officers hit him with their nightsticks and flashlights during the alleged attack last September in northeast Houston. A police department spokesman said the trio was fired because they violated department policy. The officers have filed appeals with the city's Civil Service Commission.
Jimmy Swaggart does not agree with the whole year of punishment the Assemblies of God hierarchy has imposed on him. The executive board of the church yesterday barred Swaggart from preaching for at least a year. But Swaggart's attorney says the TV evangelist will instead abide by the Louisiana district's 3-month suspension.
He is looking forward with great anticipation to returning to television and to the pulpit in accordance with the district's decision on Sunday, May 22nd, 1988.
Swaggart has agreed to undergo rehabilitation. That was ordered by both the Louisiana district and the larger church body. Houston Congressman Mickey Leland says he detects the beginnings of a Stop Jackson movement in the Democratic Party. Leland met with Jackson and other Democratic leaders at a breakfast today in Washington, who say they will not support any such effort. Mike Flannery has the story.
There were a few lighthearted moments punctuating the seriousness of it all today. Some of the Democratic Party's veteran insiders meeting the outsider who has surprised them all with his success at the polls. After conferring with Jesse Jackson, a former Secretary of Defense who has advised 8 presidents, said he is not bothered by Jackson's lack of formal credentials for the White House.
There have been a number of men who have come into the presidency who've not served in federal government before. We have an outstanding illustration present in the White House today. But Reverend Jackson can bring to his administration, should it turn out to be a Jackson administration, the best brains that the party and the country have to offer.
In addition to Clark Clifford, the gathering included several veterans of the Jimmy Carter administration, among them Burt Lance. He's been a close advisor to Jackson.
I think Jesse Jackson is a viable candidate. I think he is electable. I've said that all the time. To say that he's not prohibits a lot of people in this country from ever being perceived as being electable.
But here on Capitol Hill, there are Democrats who say it would be political suicide to put Jesse Jackson on the presidential ticket.
But if he were to be nominated, I think it would be a disaster for the Democratic Party. The man is just totally out of the mainstream of American politics at the present time.
Jackson says he hopes to set up more meetings with party leaders around the country as he tries to complete the complicated transition from lifelong outsider to Democratic presidential front runner. Mike Flannery for CBS News, Washington.
Jackson's primary opponent, Michael Dukakis, regained his primary footing with last night's Connecticut victory, but he's holding only a narrow 16-delegate lead over Jackson. And for the first time today, he spoke of the differences between himself and Jackson in their positions on Middle East policy, domestic policy, and how to build a strong economy. The general strike by opponents of Panama's leader is starting to crumble. 3 major supermarket chains in Panama have reopened, and the government reports limited services will resume tomorrow at banks. General Manuel Noriega appeared at a rally last night to show that not everyone in Panama dislikes the military leader. Of course, his audience was handpicked. Only political parties sympathetic to the government were invited, and Noriega took the opportunity to blame his country's crisis on the United States. He accused the U.S. of spending a fortune to support a disinformation campaign.
Back here at home, we may be paying higher electric bills this summer if Houston Lighting and Power gets its way. They filed legal documents in Austin asking the Public Utilities Commission to okay a $400 million rate hike. Apparently, HL&P wants to pass cost overruns at the South Texas nuclear project along to the customers. The plant's price tag started out at $1 billion. It's now up to 5 times that much. The plant began operating last week, more than a decade after construction began.
Air travelers may soon have a choice of airlines to fly between Hobby Airport and Dallas's Love Field. Continental Airlines has wanted to fly that route for a couple of years now, and today the Texas Supreme Court cleared the way for it to do so. Right now, Southwest Airlines is the only carrier to fly between the 2 downtown airports of Hobby and Love. Southwest officials say that they do not take the competition lightly, but say with 62 flights a day between the 2 airports, they will be tough competitors. So far, Continental has not said when it may go ahead with flights or whether it will cut the current fare for the routes.
Still ahead tonight on 11 News at 5, a HealthWise report on menopause and how many people are turning to estrogen for treatment.
Also coming up, just how bad is the subsidence problem here in Houston? We'll give you the results of a new study. And later on, we'll check in with Neil Frank for the wet forecast. Stay tuned.
In tonight's HealthWise report, Susan Starnes focuses on menopause and how it can be treated. Susan?
Felicia, all women go through menopause. That's the medical term for the time when the ovaries quit producing, either as a result of aging or because part of the reproductive system has been surgically removed. As a result, the body slows down its production of estrogen. That's a hormone. Without natural estrogen, many women suffer hot flashes, sleepless nights, changes in personality for months, sometimes years. Estrogen pills, creams, and now patches are growing in popularity as a treatment for menopause. Today, a popular Hollywood star helped tout estrogen therapy benefits at a free seminar.
Glamour, sex, and science drew more than a room full of women over 40. A few male fans caught the famous film star on a day suited for filming a remake of Singing in the Rain. Debbie Reynolds graciously signed old movie photos and posters. Then, after a serious medical presentation on osteoporosis and menopause, she got everybody laughing. Reynolds' hysterectomy 9 years ago left her with a few medical problems.
I had to find out about it because I didn't know why I was so fatigued. And it was because my body was sent into an early menopause change by having hysterectomy. And I just didn't feel well. I felt very tired and fatigued, and I shouldn't have felt that tired. So then I went to the doctor, and he told me I didn't have any estrogen. So I had to start taking all those pills, which really made me nauseous.
Reynolds now takes estrogen with a skin patch. Estrogen therapy is not for all women who've had hysterectomies or gone through menopause.
You have to weigh the benefits of estrogen therapy to the risks of estrogen therapy. And in many of my patients, we find that they are not only happier on estrogen, but I feel comfortable that their life will be prolonged, their risks of osteoporosis will be reduced, and various types of menopausal symptoms are also essentially ameliorated.
Reynolds' appearance was made possible in Houston by a drug company which manufactures estrogen. Since 95% of all women eligible for estrogen therapy do not use it, the potential market is huge. Reynolds has a message for women going through menopause, whether through Mother Nature's clock or as a result of surgery.
And I think some women listen to someone they know, and a lot of women grew up with me. You know, I'm 56 April 1st. I've been in the business 40 years. So a lot of women have known me since Tammy, and we were young girls together, and now we're at this age together. And if I have learned something, I don't mind talking about it and sharing it.
Well, medical tips come in all kinds of ways in today's world. A Nebraska millionaire is taking on cholesterol awareness as his cause. You may have seen Phil Sokoloff's ads in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, Time, or Newsweek. He wants every American to know what the cholesterol level is in their body, and if it's too high, do something about it to bring it down to a healthy level. Anything, of course, over 240 is considered a high risk for heart disease. And why is Phil doing this? Well, he had a heart attack 20 years ago. He changed his diet before cholesterol counts were considered acceptable cocktail chatter, and he lives today with no cardiovascular problems. I guess we could say today's HealthWise report is medical tips from the rich and famous.
Yeah, and that's good. I'm glad to see everybody talking healthy. Good stuff.
Champagne wishes to you, too, Susan. Thank you. Well, you don't think much about subsidence until there's a big rain, like today, and you get home to find your belongings all underwater. The problem of sinking ground is responsible for much of the flooding in our area. The Harris-Galveston Coastal Subsidence District today released a 10-year study about the problem. Carolyn Campbell has our report.
Residents in the Northeast Harris County subdivision of Brownwood may not have lost their homes 4 years ago if efforts to control subsidence had been in place.
We had about 10 feet of subsidence there, and as you can see in Brownwood, it really destroyed that subdivision.
The Harris-Galveston Coastal Subsidence District reports today subsidence has improved in some former problem areas like Brownwood and along the ship channel.
Where surface water was available, they have cooperated with us to use that surface water and not pump additional high quantities of groundwater. And that cooperation has helped us to make the progress that you've seen today.
Progress has also been made at the San Jacinto Battleground, an area that caused great concern a few years ago.
Over at the San Jacinto Monument, we've lost over 30% of the state park, those lands around that area. As far as subsidence today, that's going on is extremely minimal.
But today's report also revealed problems that have developed in other areas of the county, like Meyerland and the Galleria.
Primarily anywhere from west to northwest and north Harris County are the areas where water level declines are continuing to cause increasing rates of subsidence.
Subsidence occurs when land sinks after groundwater is pumped out. That contributes to flooding. Neighbors says most of the water pumped from the ground is the water we use every day in our homes. He says controlling subsidence by using surface water instead of groundwater is necessary to continue this area's growth.
If we had turned our heads 10 years ago and not made the improvements, we would probably have destroyed the industrial base of this area, including the ability to have a Johnson Space Center.
Efforts to convert problem areas in the county are underway, but do take time and money. Carolyn Campbell, 11 News.
By the way, the city of Houston is completing a surface water treatment plant that will furnish water to the Galleria area. When surface water becomes available to this area, subsidence will decrease. The damage done by subsidence, according to authorities, is irreversible. Well, there's no doubt about it. It is nasty out there. Not nice at all. Here's Neil with the forecast.
That's right, Sylvan. It's been ugly all day, but we needed the rain. How much did we get? We'll talk about that in just a minute.
And later on, we'll introduce you to a dog who likes to go for rides, but likes to do the driving himself. Stay with us.
combination of stationary fronts and disturbances in the upper part of the atmosphere in spring make for the kind of day that we've had today. It has been ugly out there, but we needed the rain. Even with the 1.25 inches that we got out at Intercontinental this afternoon, we're still about 2 inches below normal for this time of the year. And as we're in the growing season, this rain is exactly the kind of thing that we needed. Now let's take a look at 8 o'clock this morning. Most of the shower activity were offshore at that time, associated with that front that went through us yesterday afternoon. And those disturbances and thunderstorms were developing and moving up towards the Louisiana coast. But as we put the radar pictures in motion, what I want you to watch is look at that area of light rain. That's indicated by the blue, moving right over the area, and so we've had rain in and out all day long. A number of our weather observers have called in, and it's suggesting that we're seeing rainfall amounts of about 1 inch and an inch and a half, and we'll have a more complete look at the totals at 6 o'clock. Now, let's take a look and review how this whole thing developed. Remember, 6 o'clock last night, the front had just moved by Galveston, wasn't quite yet by Brownsville, and we had a tornado watch effective in the area yesterday afternoon associated with thunderstorms along that front. By midnight, the front had continued to move on over to central Louisiana, had cleared the Texas coast. By 6 a.m. this morning, it was just about stationary, still in central Louisiana, back about the place where it is in South Texas. And by that time, the winds had shifted a little bit to the south. But looking behind the front, temperatures 30s over the western part of the state, 40s along the coast. And with the southerly winds, we're actually beginning to see a little bit of a warming trend out in the Panhandle. 2 degrees warmer last night than they were 24 hours before, but over the eastern part of the state, we had much cooler temperatures last night. It's been over a week since we've had temperatures like this. The temperature at Dallas was 32 degrees cooler this morning than it was Tuesday morning, and here locally out at Intercontinental, 48 degrees. That's 23 degrees cooler than it was yesterday, but I would remind you that 48 degrees is only about 5 degrees below normal for this time of the year. Now, by this afternoon, the front has continued to be stationary. I would also call your attention that it looks like we're getting a little bit of a clearing trend as these clouds move to the northeast. The next system we got to worry about is a spring storm. This could become a major one that's developing out over the central Rockies at the present time. Temperatures this afternoon over the western part of the state with southerly winds and a lot of clear skies are warmer than they even are over the eastern part of the state. And here locally, 50 degrees was all we could get today. And 50 degrees is 25 degrees below normal for this time of year. So it was really cool out there this afternoon, particularly when you factored in the wind. And 51 at Hobby, 57 down on the island, and the winds are out of the northeast at the present time, about 12 miles an hour. The surf temperature even dropped 3 degrees with this rain over the last 24 hours. Those winds are gradually shifting around to the east, and we expect that that's what's going to happen. Now, here's a big, broader look. We'll have more to say about the national picture at 6, but that's the next storm that we're worrying about, and by tomorrow, that is continuing to develop there in the central Rockies. Probably won't come through this area until the weekend, but at least the warm front should get back north of us, and so we're looking for warmer temperatures tomorrow and maybe even a few breaks in the weather. Let's take a look at our forecast once more for tonight. It's going to be cool. It's 50 degrees right now. That's probably about what it's going to be tonight. There's still an 80% chance of getting some thunder showers, and then tomorrow, we're dropping that percentage off a little bit. I don't think it's going to completely clear out, but at least we might get a little bit of break in the weather, and if the temperature can get back up in the 70s, at least it's going to be tolerable.
Ah, it's good Debbie Reynolds brought that hat to town. She needs it.
May need a bigger one than that.
Boy. Thanks, Neil.
Thanks, Neil. On Wall Street today, stock market prices ended in retreat after an early advance. The Dow Jones Industrials closed at 1,978. That was a 20-point loss. Trading was moderately active at 152 million shares. But on futures trade, oil prices rebounded, boosted by continued hopes about the upcoming OPEC meeting and a new report on U.S. refined oil reserves. West Texas Intermediate crude was up 10 cents to $17.10 a barrel.
Well, Giff has sports coming up.
And we'll visit with Astros pitcher Charlie Kerfeld as he tries to get his neck and his shoulder back in condition. Don't go away.
Here's Giff with sports. This is a tough time of the year when the managers are looking at their teams and trying to cut back and decide who they're going to go with.
You get to the final cuts in baseball, basketball, football. The coaches will always say it's the toughest time, and manager Hal Lanier has some tough cuts to make this year because there's so much competition with the Astros. Well, the Astros bats came to life today at Tinker Field in Orlando, but the score ended up in Minnesota's favor. Houston out-hit the Twins 13-9, but the Twins win the game 6-5. Nolan Ryan was scheduled to start, but he had a cramp in his calf, so he stayed back in Kissimmee, and through there, his injury is not serious. Glenn Davis did, however, hit his first home run of the spring. That was the good news. Of course, we've been keeping you up to date on the progress of Astros relief pitcher Charlie Kerfeld. The big right-hander started rehab work trying to alleviate the numbness he has in his neck. Steve Mark has more.
Last year will not go on the Charlie Kerfeld resume. This guy was bombed in the early outings and then sent to the minors before the first month of the season. Kerfeld comes to camp this year and pitches great. 10 innings, no runs. Until last Friday, when Kerfeld gives up 2 early runs against the Expos and has what he calls a real pain in the neck.
Just right through the neck down into the shoulder. It's just basically, I guess, a nerve. Just kind of crept up on me, just started getting worse and worse.
The diagnosis on Kerfeld's ailment is still unclear. It ranges from a muscle strain to a pinched nerve. Either way, Kerfeld is under orders to do nothing strenuous for a week, only therapy. And Kerfeld has been placed on the disabled list for the 2nd year in a row.
There's no velocity on the pitches, which basically is like bringing a high school kid out there throwing against major league pitchers, batters, and it's just not the way you go about things when you got other guys down there that can do it. And you know, the best thing for it is just rest, I guess.
Kerfeld's frustration and uncertainty is compounded by the theory that Kerfeld probably would have made the 24-man roster.
In my mind, I think I had the team made. I had the 10 innings or whatever before I got hurt, and then I think it's just a matter of building the strength back up. I worked hard all winter to get to where I was, and now what are you going to do?
In this case, very little. Steve Mark, 11 Sports.
Well, coming up at 6, the Rockets are in Boston tonight to play the Celtics. Akeem Olajuwon's status for tonight's game still unknown. I talked to Ray Melchiori, the trainer for the Rockets, just a few minutes ago. He told me that Akeem has just a little bit of swelling on the knee. That is because he worked out yesterday, and they are hoping that he can play in tonight's game. But if you ask me, I don't think he'll be there.
Don't think he'll be there, huh?
We'll have more at 6.
Big game.
Okay.
Thanks, Giff. And coming up, you've heard of stupid pet tricks on the Letterman Show. Well, wait until you see this one. Stay tuned. We hope you'll join us tonight at 6 for 11 News. We'll have a follow-up report on that Galveston woman who was gang raped and says that she's suffering from AIDS. Authorities on the island cannot stand by any longer. Today they acted. We'll tell you what they did. And we'll have more on what's going to happen in Texas as Continental Airlines and Southwest do battle over the rights to Love Field in Dallas. We hope you can join us at 6.
A Barstow, California man is having trouble getting a license for his dog. Now, we only take time to tell you that because the license he's trying to get for his dog is a driver's license. RV, the Labrador, has been cruising the streets of Barstow for 2 years now, and everywhere he goes, people pause to watch. RV's owner hopes the driver's license will turn into a license to print money. He wants to get RV doing jobs on car commercials. Problem is, RV has passed the driving part of the test, but he's having trouble with the written part.
Now, I've heard of tailgating, but what about petting in the backseat of the car? New meaning.
Arg, arg, enjoy your supper.